We are on to the next item, which is the proposal regarding the WSBA magazine name change. And Tara, do you want to, have you made an announcement on the good news?
Oh, no. In fact, I'll let Sarah make
Sarah.
an announcement so I don't get the details
We're going to
wrong.
take up we're going to take up the magazine name change, but I know you've got an announcement with regard to the magazine.
Today, so this is hot off the presses, kind of like the Oscars for actors, there is, the awards are called the luminaries for bar communicators. So basically the ABA's communications section met in Cleveland today. And we received, for the large bars, which are, the big dogs, 2 luminaries. One was for outstanding regular publication, which was for Northwest Lawyer, and one was for outstanding special project, which was basically for the redesign and the content of our blog, Northwest Sidebar. So that was exciting. Woo! That was exciting for our crew.
Yeah.
You tell me.
It's the communications sections of the National Association of Bar Executives awarded the WSBA with 2 of its highest honors. Northwest Lawyer won a Luminary Award for outstanding publications among large bars, which is a huge honor, and our Northwest Sidebar blog won a Luminary Award for special project amongst large bars. So Sarah and the entire team, everybody at WSBA, huge congratulations. It's not a non-event. It is a big event. Yes. Thank you.
Let's do another cheer.
All right. So who wants to take the lead on the, I've got Carla and Sarah teamed up on this.
Thank you. Right, so you'll all recall that at the last meeting I had brought up during our governor's roundtable my request on behalf of some of my members and to change the name of Northwest Lawyer back to Washington State Bar News, which it was for probably 75 years of its publication. And I brought a motion at that time, but because of the Open Public Meetings Act, I was not able to actually, we were not actually able to consider that motion, so I had requested, and President Pickett has graciously agreed to place it on today's agenda so that we might actually now have a discussion about it. It's on as a first read, which is interesting, but nevertheless, since I already brought it up at the prior meeting, but nevertheless, so my proposal is, with the help of Sarah Nagowski, and thank you very much, Sarah, contained in the materials, the late materials at page 12. Effectively, the reasons that I have proposed that it's time to revert back to the original name is, 1, the name Northwest Lawyer is not inclusive of all of our legal license types, and we have had extensive discussion at many times about being inclusive in all of our communications and the language that we use. In fact, we went through the bylaws and various other things and changed everything from lawyer to legal license, legal professionals. The oath of office we took yesterday said Washington licensed legal professionals, which was not that easy to say, but at any rate. So we have been doing that in order to include the other licensing groups. Number 2, many members still prefer and call the magazine by its original name, Bar News. And we do want to have members to have a clear indication that the magazine is the official publication of the Washington State Bar Association. Northwest Lawyer implies more of a regional focus as opposed to a magazine or a publication that is reflective of the Washington State Bar Association and the members of that association. So I could talk with you further about various components. I will not pretend that I've taken a vote on or poll of all 40,000 plus members, but I will say that at the San Juan County Bar Association meeting with the listening tour, President Pickett and I were told by our members, and we had a really good turnout, that people wanted the name to return to Washington State Bar News. They liked, which is what it always was. They liked Bar News, They still refer to it as Bar News. They like Washington State in there to identify that it's our publication. And I am hoping that you will join me in supporting this for the reasons I've articulated. And that's really my initial comments.
Ms. Carla, anything to add, Sarah?
I think Carla's covered it all. Like I said, I have tried to be in service. We put out that poll, and you can see the feedback. I think we included the entire, it was, hovering around 100 responses. You can see that the majority of folks, I think the data kind of speaks for itself. I think that a lot of people who at least answered would like to go back to Bar News. Some says it doesn't matter too much. So I just want to make sure that to be able to give you some of that history, which is also in the memo, and again, to help with whatever information you might need.
Great. Any other questions or comments from governors on this subject? Alec, and then Doug.
Well, one of the strangest and perhaps hottest discussions get around aesthetics and what we name something, and on and on and on. I am not going to support this. I want to leave things where they are, especially as it's recently cited. I think it's also telling that there are a number of people who just say, hey, this is not something I'm really, all hopped up about. And I think that's as true for our members. I don't think the world comes to an end because we have it named Northwest Lawyer. Unless we'd like to get into having us revisit this, once every 5 or 6 years or 7 years. And it may have been Bar News for 70 years, but now we're in this other period where people start looking for names and new names and on and on. So I'm going to go for leaving it like it is, and I hope people won't slam me for doing that.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
That is a joke. That is a joke.
Sorry, Alec.
But I want to make sure we understand we may disagree. We don't have to be disagreeable, and it doesn't have anything to do personally with anybody or anything. All right.
All right. And we are, just so everybody is on the same page, we are going to have a short exec session at 3:15 well, I don't know to when yet, but we don't. Yeah, it's in the potential work. So just be aware. You got comment on this, PJ? Yes. Well, okay. I'm just going to put. There isn't anything on for action. I've said that like 4 times on other things I know, but go ahead, Doug. It's a first read. You can do whatever you want to do. I continue to encourage people to think about our members and their ability to weigh in, and are we cutting them out of the discussion or not? That's all. Doug?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this issue. 7 years, literally 7 years, thinking about this issue. And I took the liberty of jotting down my thoughts this morning, and I'd like to share them with the board. However, by and large, my views are not so much those of the Chief Disciplinary Counsel. It is my sense as Chief Disciplinary Counsel that the magazine and its name should resonate with the official purpose and mission of the bar, but my views are mostly those of a WSBA member. So with the President's permission, I would like to present from the presenter's chair rather than from the Chief Disciplinary Counsel chair.
Granted.
Thank you. Is my mic live? Bertolt Brecht, the early to mid 20th century German playwright, theater director, and performing arts theorist, coined a term for a theatrical technique he had developed called the Verfremdungseffekt. It has been variously translated as the distancing effect, estrangement effect, and alienation effect. The idea has been described as making the familiar strange. On the stage, the device calls attention to the play as an artifice and disrupts the audience's immersion in the narrative, thereby, quote, stripping the event of its self-evident, familiar, obvious quality, end quote, with the purpose of drawing viewers into an attitude of critical judgment. I mention this by way of introducing anecdotal experiences of my own that bear on the question of the name of the WSBA's magazine. In addition to my routine duties as Chief Disciplinary Counsel, I spend a good deal of time with WSBA members at CLE events, speaking engagements, committees, boards, task forces, councils, panels, etc., and even awards dinners, to name a few, and I hear and I observe things in those contexts. If I had a nickel, better yet, 3 pennies, for every time I heard the following phrase, I would have a heck of a lot of pennies. The phrase is this: the Bar News, or whatever they call it now. Whatever they call it now. I experienced that most recently on September 6th at a monthly meeting of the King County Bar Association Family Law Section. That being said, far be it from me to offer opinions on the topic of branding or rebranding, not my field, and this is the board's decision to make. But my hunch is that in renaming the Bar News in 2012, the WSBA inadvertently triggered a Verfremdungseffekt, making the familiar strange in a way that has not advanced the WSBA's mission, and that what made sense in 1920s German experimental theater may not translate to the naming of a bar publication.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you very much. Alec.
So I don't know where this is all going, but when I started, I mentioned how the whole issue of naming aesthetics is a hot issue. And so what I do not want us to do is take any action today with very few people here, with not putting it out there very strongly to our members that we're going to take a look and perhaps make a decision on renaming the magazine, to allow everybody far and wide to give any and all comments about that. And it may be that we will make that change, but I would hope we would not make that change with very few people besides us here right now, today.
Thanks, Alec. Anybody else? Carla?
Well, with all due respect to Governor Stevens, I have to disagree with that. This, to me, is significant, and I am a bow to the eloquence of Doug Ende, stating the cause much more eruditely than I did. But it is, in fact, true. That's the same phrase I hear from people, bar news or whatever it's called now, whatever they call it now. That happens over and over and over again. I even say it myself. I still can't get my mind wrapped around Northwest lawyer. It doesn't speak to me. And in an ever-changing situation that we have in our lives, there's something comforting about the familiar. And it's a tried and true historical name. I don't recall why it was changed in 2012. I suppose it's like why magazines redefine themselves and have a different glossy front cover because they think it's a cool updated look, but it doesn't always serve people well. And so I am again running up against the Open Public Meetings Act because apparently we can't make a decision today. And I'm just disappointed because I had asked to have this put on the agenda for action, and instead it's on for first read. So now we wait 2 more months. But I'll just say that though I think it's nice that we get member input whenever we possibly can, there's a lot of really important issues we don't bother checking with our members about. So now this one, we suddenly have to defer it 2 months so that we can get far and wide input about it. I guess I'm not really following that. And Sarah did send out a bar poll, and it was pretty widely publicized. I think she sent it out to all the members. So they already knew that this was a question that was going to be up for discussion. So that's all I have to say.
We've got PJ and then Alec.
Julie, is there something that prohibits us from taking action today?
This explains my sigh earlier. If you'll recall, Governor Higginson and I had this discussion earlier. So the OPMA, because we have special meetings, says that we can't modify the agenda or add things to the agenda during a meeting because we're having a special meeting. I think it's confusing because we have some things on the agenda specifically listed for action, and this one is listed as first reading. So there is a risk that it could be found to be a violation, and as I explained to Governor Higginson earlier, the least risky way forward is to not take action and risk an OPMA violation, and I guess I could add, since we're in current litigation on that issue. But that's it.
Tara, do you know why it was listed for first reading?
Yeah, and I want to apologize because it has been our custom that everything goes on initially as first reading, and it's not a requirement. It has just been our custom, and it's certainly not something we have to do moving forward, and I regret that it's put the board in this situation. That's the only reason.
Would you take a look at that going forward?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alec.
Yeah. And so I guess in any case, and I'm looking at the president-elect for the maybe next couple hours, and then he's the president. I do think we have to get clarification about even when things are put on the agenda. So my context is not I say something one meeting and then I bring forth an actual motion the next, and that solves it. I think saying something is one thing. I think we absolutely have to have the discipline of putting it in writing and putting it out there, and that may be first reading, but it's the first time anyone can actually see what the nature of the action is. Then the question is for, I think, us, whether or not we actually hold it open for first reading or go ahead and take action, but at least there has been in writing an action that people can read about and see. So I would always want to make sure that it's not just a matter of us even distributing something at a meeting for discussion versus still having it set out, placed in the format we have to then move forward. And that's what I always want to make sure our practice is, so that when the public does get the materials, and remember, the public has also said, our members have also said, yeah, but if our materials come out, in a short time before your meeting, and they're voluminous, some of our members are still saying that gives me not enough time to actually take a look at it, get my thoughts together, and give my comments. So those things I hope we will always balance and think about. And I would just say again, since this is in the realm of aesthetics or names or whatever, my experience has been that is not a simple decision, no matter what you think, with a lot of heated, heavy conversations that people have because of their preferences.
Thanks, Alec. Chris?
Thanks. I don't have a dog in this fight. I still call it the bar news, and I probably always will. I think the larger issue that I raised at the executive committee meeting, and I would present again to you for your consideration over the next couple of months, is this. I think that we've had some criticism of the content of the magazine. There is a sense, I think it's wrong, but there is a sense out there that it is political or ideological in nature. And I think if you make this change as part of a larger evaluation and discussion about the editorial policy and the members of the editorial review board and what they do, I actually think that's going to go down better, because I'll tell you what the people that I know are going to say is, you have really big issues and problems in the bar and you're spending your time talking about the name of the magazine. I think that's going to be their reaction. And so my advice to you would be, make this part of a larger discussion with larger and more important issues than a title.
Thanks, Chris. All right, any other comments on this topic? Looking around the room, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm not really able to see any hands. So I'm going to guess that we should move forward.